Liberal Show, y'all, man, we back. My name is Damion JaDonne. It's been about 2 years. We haven't been in, and man, I'm happy to be back. Took a little time off during COVID. I was at KCOH Radio for probably about 4 or 5 years, doing different shows with Jerry P. Beasley over there. And when COVID hit, a lot of people shut down, and I never came back. So again, this is Damion JaDonne. The name of the show is the Conservative Liberal Show. I always like to give people background on what the Conservative Liberal Show is. Basically, the line came from Woodwill, Bun B line, when he talked about conservative, liberal, left wing hanging, right wing swinging. So again, one of my favorite rappers is always rest in peace, Pimp C. But man, just one of my favorite lines from any rapper ever. So I just came up with the name Conservative Liberal Show. Not necessary politics, but we want to get into what's going on, and especially in local government here in Houston and Texas, and also throughout the nation as we're getting ready to be in voting season, primary season, I believe it is. So we're going to talk a little bit about voting with our guest, John Branch Jr., whenever he gets ready to come on. So I'm going to make sure that he is in the room in the back, and then I'll bring him on shortly. Well, man, I've been doing radio since about 2012, I think, when I had an opportunity to intern at ESPN Radio when I was there, and I loved it, man. It was nothing like being able to be around the sports and other people that really enjoyed sports, man. Cutting promos. Are we having a technical difficulty already? Being able to cut promos and do things like that, man. So that's where I kind of got my first opportunity at to go to, again, ESPN Radio 97.5. They had 1560. They had a lot of other things too as well. We got John Branch on, but he's not able to connect yet. And hopefully we'll be able to get him in here soon. And I'll keep going, man. So another reason that we focus on criminal justice and community is I'm formerly incarcerated. I'm justice impacted. Got in some trouble as a kid, man. I did 17 years flat. Went in when I was 16. Eventually got 4 aggravated robberies that I didn't do. But from West Airport, man, I held it down like you think you're supposed to do as a kid. I just didn't snitch, man, and end up a guy jumped on my brother, man, and I assaulted a guy. So I ended up having 5 felonies at the age of 16, certified as an adult, and being certified as an adult, man, I ended up going down, had a 25-year sentence, and from that 25-year sentence, what ended up happening, I served 17 years. But while I was down there for the 17 years, man, I had a lot of opportunities to just work on myself. You know, I got a degree. Shout out to Alvin Community College. They're still active down there now. And then I also did a lot of other things like peer navigating, being able to assist individuals as they were coming through with the Safe Prisons Act, being down there, again, just trying to better myself, because there's a lot of individuals that go to prison as kids, or not even prison, to TYC, to the juvenile facilities as kids. And sometimes they're doing 4, 5, 6 years. And when you go in as a kid, as bad as I hate to say it a lot of times, sometimes you come out as a kid. You're not really developed. There are things that you don't know, things that you're not really, really, really experienced with. And so when that happens, what you end up doing is you come out and you have to have time to adjust as a person. Not only as a man or a woman, you have time to adjust as a person. So when you have time to adjust as a person, you have to not only be patient with yourself, but others have to be patient with you. And that's a difficult thing when you think you want to be out and growing and learning and getting apartments and working toward a house and being in relationships. That's a real big thing. So again, there are a lot of men and women that are still down there. When I went down in 1993, but there are a lot of individuals that are in society right now that are owning their own businesses, that are actually working on their doctorate or have their doctorate already, that are viable members of society. And that's one of the most important things when you have an opportunity to come out and have support. You have to be able to have support from not only your family, but the community as well. So as I'm looking for John Branch Jr. to come in on right now, I don't see him, but I'm waiting on him to come in. So I'll just keep going for a little bit. But as my story is, again, I was able to come out, go to the University of Houston. And then by going to the University of Houston, I got a degree in broadcast journalism. And that's my passion. That's not the work that I do. But that's my actual passion. So as I'm working on my passion, being able to grow, man, being able to have these opportunities to grow, being able to have opportunities to work in the field that I really enjoy. And in those things, man, I'm thankful. I'm very thankful. So let me find where John is at, y'all. Where is John at? Somebody tell John to come on in. So having these opportunities, man. So that's my biggest thing. Not only having opportunities for myself, but being able to provide opportunities for others. And in the midst of providing these opportunities for others, it helps us to be able to say that we can help individuals reintegrate into society. And that's one of the biggest things that we need to understand, is that we need to help individuals reintegrate into society. Y'all give me a second as I'll be able to help John come in. He's here, but I'm not able to help him come in. And I see everything right here, John. John, text me if you can hear me too, because I know I have a couple individuals on, but I want to make sure that you're able to come in. Where is it at? Okay, so John said he can hear me, y'all, but it's just not able to bring him in right now. Give me a couple seconds and I'll bring him in. But then I'll keep going too. So I've had opportunities to work in local government, and that's one of the biggest things that I think that, yes, please, John, because I have a couple people in, it's just not allowing you in right now. So I have a couple people that's on screen, so just come back in. Hey, everyone, how you doing? Hey, V. Dixon. So being able to just have a seat at the table. If we want to help to change and alter some of the things that are going on in society, we have to allow those individuals who have the experience. There we go, John. We have to allow those individuals that have the experience to have a seat at the table as well. So that is very important as we work on, again, not only changing society, man, but having a viable society for those individuals that have made mistakes throughout their life. So I'm going to be quiet now. I'm going to bring in our guest, John Branch Jr. or John Wendell Branch Jr. He is currently a precinct chair of the Harris County Republican Party since 2018, where he serves as precinct number 431. Since joining the Republican Party in 2018, Mr. Branch has served as a member of the vacancy committee, basically screening members for precinct chairs in the engagement committee, where he currently serves as chairman, and he coordinates all the engagement outreach activities for the party to engage voters and citizens throughout the Republican Party. So at this point, I'm going to bring on John Branch Jr. John, are you on? Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing great, brother, man. How are you?
Good, man. Happy to have you on.
Glad to
Happy
be
to
here.
have you on.
Glad to be here. I was a little
So,
weird for a second, brother. I said, wait a minute, what's going on, man?
oh
A little
man,
weird
yeah,
for me.
yeah. I
I know,
wasn't
we're just
gonna.
messing with you.
Yeah. I wasn't gonna not have you on here, man.
I got you, brother.
So,
I know you.
John, man, just gave a brief overview, man. Go ahead and introduce yourself too, man. First of all, we're happy to have you at the Conservative Liberal Show. This is our first show back in a few years, but happy to have you as the first guest. We've talked. We met at a community event actually.
Yes,
We've stayed in touch for the last 2 months setting this up, man. So I appreciate your support and being our first guest back. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
okay, well, first of all, David, I just wanted to say thank you for allowing me to be your inaugural guest on your show. I know you could have picked anybody, but you chose me, and I'm very, very honored and thankful that you decided to pick me, brother. We met
Thank
at
you.
a Pure Justice event.
Yes.
I think it's like a family reunion event we was at. We're and I found out about the event via brother named Roshan Evans. I
Mhm.
met him at the I was going to say Rashawn Evans or Rashawn Davis. I'm very, very bad with names. I
Rashawn
apologize.
Evans, yeah. Rashawn
Yeah,
Evans.
that's what I thought. That's what I thought. That was yeah. And I met him at a Juneteenth event at the Shrine of the Black Madonna, where actually, believe it or not, my mother was actually very familiar with that church growing up in Chicago, so she's actually familiar with
Okay.
those people and whatnot. So it was, so I told her about it. She was very excited. Um, the HCRP had a table up there, and I was just walking around a little bit, and Rashawn's story touched me
Mhm.
because of how many people that we know that have served time behind bars, rightfully or wrongfully accused, and unfortunately, there's so many times where you go behind bars serving the system, and you kind of, I don't want to say you're forgotten about, but a lot of
Yeah.
times our society, we're kind of a throwaway society. We tend to like to throw people away, stuff like that, and not
Mhm.
exactly realize that they're going to be back. The people who have served their time, they're going to be back out here, part of our society again, and we can't just shun these people. We can't do that. We have to take care of everybody, and and when
That's
when you
true.
told
That's
me
true.
about
So, and I thank you for recognizing that, because that's one thing as we get into talking about more about you and what you do with the
yes, sir.
Republican Party, and
Hmm.
also not just that, but who you are as a person, man, and some things that you have going on. And that's one thing that needs to be recognized. Sometimes again, people do feel that they are thrown away, and there are certain segments of society who feel that they have been forgotten. But it's
Yes,
always good to hear that individuals that have a seat at the table would not only bring other individuals to the table, but would also champion their cause when they're not even in the room. So that's
exactly.
very, very, very important. So we thank you for those sentiments, man.
Always, brother.
Um, so want to get into a couple things, man. We're gonna take care of the elephant in the room first. We're gonna go ahead and get the elephant in the room out the way first. Is that okay with you?
Pun intended, I'm assuming, right?
Pun intended, man. That is absolutely correct.
Sure.
So, as a black man,
Hmm.
uh, actively
Hmm.
with the Republican Party,
Yes.
leading the Republican Party, and though people may not understand the history, and Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, and we can go all the way back to that, but as a Republican, a black man right now in these times in society,
Hmm.
one, how did you arrive to choose your party? And then also,
Hmm.
how do you feel that those individuals that look like you, how do you feel that they respond to you or even treat you, knowing that or feeling that they don't get a fair shake from the Republican Party?
Well, let me say this. I know you mentioned the history of the Republican Party. A lot of people do not know that the Republican Party of Texas was actually founded by free black men.
Mhm.
Um, You see the name outside of some of the housing outside Texas University. It was in CUNY Homes. I think it's Norris Wright CUNY, I believe, was actually one of the founding members of the Republican Party of Texas. A lot of people didn't know that. Now, in
Mhm.
terms of how I joined the party itself, actually, I've been registered independent for over 15 years.
Okay.
Um, I'd actually, I was actually more towards I guess like a center left independent for the most part, depending on what the issue is. I could go right. In 2018, what happened, and this was during the era of Trump, by the way, too. This is really surprising people. Me and my buddy of mine, we actually had a day party at a place called Davenport. Shout out Davenport. And because this is midterms, and guy wants to come in and speak to the crowd. I'm like, okay, here we go, another white guy want to go talk to a party full of black folks about who to vote for him and stuff like that. And I saw his push cards, and it said Patriot, Second Amendment. I said, wait a minute, this guy's not a Democrat. So hold on a second here. So I had a few libations in me, I guess. Hey, it's a day party, that's what you do. And he made his way over to my table where I was sitting at. And the first question I asked him, how come y'all don't talk to black folks?
Yeah.
And the first thing he said was, we don't know how. And I'm like, wow. And I wasn't.
But what does that mean? But what does that mean that because you're saying you don't know how to talk to an area or a group of individuals who are human beings that are a part of society that may be different culturally, but what does that actually mean?
I said that exact same thing to him. I said, why is that so difficult? And he said, some people, well, how he phrased it was that he talked about some people actually felt that they would not be welcomed, that they would not feel comfortable by just talking to people, I guess, who want to, who have like negative viewpoint of them per se. And I told him, I said, but you can't ignore people. And he said, you're right. I didn't say that to him. And fast forward a few weeks later, and I went to one of his meet and greets. I didn't invite, wasn't invited, just showed up. And of course, I was the only black guy there. I'm like, okay. As I didn't know how this was going to be at first. I had no idea what I was going to walk into. And I didn't get a single dirty look. No one said, "Oh, who was this guy doing here?" Stuff.
So like you felt welcome. Is that what you're saying?
I did feel welcome. And the candidate himself, he actually talked to me for about 30 minutes after his event was over. I got there near the end. And I found out that I didn't even live in his precinct. I'm like, wow, that stinks, But, it's like he was able to talk to me and stuff. And so he invited me to a celebration party at first. And so I got there. I saw some of the MAGA hats. I'm like, okay, this is going to be odd. I had some spirited conversations, I'll say it like that, when I was there. And I spoke to him after he made his speech.
Did you feel uncomfortable?
One thing he did. Huh?
Did you feel uncomfortable with the MAGA hats?
Not a little jarring at first, but I guess I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, well, I don't let things like circle me, stuff like that. I mean, it's like you see, as I saw, I'm like, okay, I'll just see him then just keep going, whatever, no big deal to me. The one thing that the candidate did, which was very, very surprising, he never did that.
Okay.
And we talked about that because of the fact that if you have to bash the other side of the aisle to make your point, then you don't really have much of a platform or a point. So I think a lot of it is sometimes it's the platform, sometimes it's the party, sometimes it's the person you speak to. As I read some of the things on there, now do I agree with all parts of the platform? No. But time though, I do agree with enough with that. I guess if you were, if people were to quote unquote classify me as like Southern Island stuff, I guess I'd be like more of a John McCain type, sort of a moderate and whatnot. And I'm okay with that. People give me stuff about that too. Oh yeah, and the politician who I'd spoken to was Dan Crenshaw, who's actually serving in Congress right now. He's got like the patch over his eye and stuff.
The patch on,
yeah. It's kind of a cool person. Yeah.
So this is the question, because we talk about the parties, right? So we have Republican and Democrat, the two main parties. We have other moderates and everything else. People break apart and call themselves. What is a Republican for those that are watching, for those that will be watching later because it's being recorded? So what is a Republican, and what does the Republican Party stand for? And especially in Harris County, Houston, and in Texas.
Okay, well, let me say this because if you don't mind, I think you asked me another part of the question also about how I guess like how people kind of looked at me as being a Black Republican
Okay.
too. If you don't mind, you answer that one
Yes.
first. At times, I've lost friends.
Oh, that's bad.
Yeah, I've lost friends. I've gotten stuff from family members, from other people who I thought I was down with for years. Even my dating life had taken a hit somewhat too. You know, I mean, it's like I had people who look, I guess, like who wouldn't talk to me because of that. It's unfortunate that we let partisan politics, I guess, sort of have that much of an impact and stuff. I think it's the best way to describe it. I've gained friends and I've lost friends. I know who actually is down for me, and it's funny because I go places and people know I'm a Republican. It's like, hey, you know, though, John's a Republican. They say no, but he's cool. You know, he's not quote unquote the people you see on TV and stuff like that. So it's like, and so I tell them is that well, the fringes, you know, they appear. They're like right, far left. You know, saying I guess like one thing television does is that they kind of have a nasty habit of like sensationalizing things and not having people's true honest intentions at heart. You know, like sometimes it's more about clicks than it is about sound bites versus actually about getting to know what a person's really like. Now, in terms of Republican Party of Texas, for me, once again, I'm newer to the party as well because like I'm still figuring stuff out. I'm still learning things too. I think about the population you talked about earlier.
Okay.
I think about people who are free.
Okay.
I think about people who are about freedom and about liberty. I know that sounds like sound bites, but it actually is true. And this is a party for everybody. You know, a friend of mine who's actually in a campaign a few years ago, she used to turn 50 Shades of Red, and we do have that in our party because sometimes it could be some issues. Sometimes it's about Second Amendment. You know, I shoot as a hobby now.
But
personal
is
reasons.
that going to saying that it's diverse, or is just saying that it's like a colloquialism or something?
I say it's diverse.
Okay.
And once again, television and social media doesn't show this. You know, they show the people just the extreme elements of the party. They show that a lot. You know, when people actually talk to folks, because prior to me serving on the engagement committee when I first got started in the party, for the most part, I arranged something called GOP conversations. I basically had elected officials and candidates go out to different events across the city. And one of the ones that we had went to was a place called Bauhaus, I believe, right by the Toyota Center.
Okay.
And two people came in. One of them was John Menifee, who was running for Congress at the time, and the other one was current city councilman Michael Kubash. And of course, my buddy was like, "That's Kubash. Yeah, that's Kubash." So okay, and so people were like, "Okay." People are here, so and so everyone respectful. You know, people. It's. We find that being a Republicans, it's just about we want the same things that everyone else wants. We do. We want to have safe neighborhoods. We want education. We want people to live their lives without people telling them what to do. We just have different ways of going about it. But in general, we both want, we both live like the American dream. We both want to have businesses. We both want to, have our loved ones taken care of. We both want to protect citizens.
So this is the question too. So
sure.
Understanding that, because again, we're going to go back to that. We're humans. We're going to go to the baseline of our existence. We're humans. We stay in Houston. We stay in Harris County. To me, Houston, one of the best cities in the world, of course.
I agree.
Why does this particular part of government, this particular party, why is there such a bad rap among African Americans, among people of color, among people who have disparities, and not the media answer, not the answer where the media, paints us as this, because in this situation coming up into elections, if you can provide clarity to individuals, then that would not only help the Republican Party, but my goal is to also say individuals need to register to use their voice. Matters how you vote. Go ahead and vote, but use your voice so you can feel included in what goes on in your neighborhood. You can feel included if somebody is actually having an issue, and now they have to go to, I guess, a commissioner. They have to go to the city council. They can say, "I had a voice in this," and that person becomes more passionate. So why is there historically, and again, it's historically over the last, whatever 70 years or 60 years, however long it's been, and that's our history.
Sure.
Why is it that this party receives such a bad rap against people of color?
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me say this. I think it's two things that work. The first thing is, okay, you mentioned elections. Sometimes, and I'm just being honest with you, this is not the media answer.
Okay.
This is me speaking like one-on-one against you. Sometimes it's the people who are in front, candidates I'm talking about. Sometimes candidates get elected. I'm going to make it through a primary. We are, we have people who come across, and they say things sometimes that may not appeal to everybody, because primaries are trying to cater against like people on that base and stuff. And the one thing that I've shared with people, and of course, anyone who knows me, I've said this loudly. People won't get upset with me if I say this. Really don't care. But I'm going to be honest about this. Sometimes we have a habit of picking people that do great in the primary, because this is primary season. We get that. This primary season. They do great in the primary, but they get killed in the general election. Because you worry about satisfying. You're so worried about where. And I'm about to tell one of our secrets a little bit, so please don't record this.
Share the secret. Share the secret. Let's go.
Yeah. Yours record anyway. Sure, but so the thing is that you vote for the most hardcore member of your party, of your base. And so Democrats do this too, so this is, of course, like whoever wins, that depends on what city you live in, because like some areas are a lot more conservative than others are, so that may not matter as much. But here in Harris County, which is a blue city, sometimes we have a habit of picking people who are the most ultra conservative, the most strong conservative, whatnot. But then you ask, how come they can't win the general election? And it's like, well, we're picking people who may not have people to, I guess, something that resonates for both sides of us. That's why, like, and Crenshaw, for example, Crenshaw actually can resonate from the right and from the left, because even some of the Democrat fans are saying, hey, you know what, Crenshaw's cool. Now, the second part of it is, this is the reason why I wanted to get involved with engagement. The reason why we do this is because for a very long time, only one side is doing the talking. Only one side is going out and engaging. Only one side is going out and speaking to people. And that is not good for anyone. Now, of course, some people.
What side? What side?
Oh, us, obviously. I mean, I'm being honest about that part. That's my bad. The only side that's doing the speaking are Dems for the most part. Like a lot of times we don't even bother to engage because we don't think we get them. But my thing is, no, you have to talk to everybody. Not just people in the party. There's the people who you're going to support, but everybody. Matter of fact, since I've been engagement chair, and this is something that I stressed about doing this, we're going everywhere. Since I've been engagement chair, we've done events for Juneteenth. Last year we did an event in Fifth Ward. This year was a Shrine of Black Madonna. We've also done things with Independence Day. We went to a veterans event over in Third Ward. Last year we did Nigerian Independence Day Parade.
What is the reception when you guys are going to the events? Because these are cultural events. Pretty much every event you say is the cultural event. So when you're going to these, especially cultural events, what's the acceptance? What's the reception that you're getting?
For the most part, it's actually positive. People are saying, thank you for coming. We're glad you're here. Because, and I've heard this an awful lot, folks say for the most part, we don't hear from you. But we're glad that you're here. We're glad you're here speaking to us. We're glad that you're here talking to us. And I said, yeah, it's not, it's like, and I told people also, guys, look, when we don't show up to places, that makes us look bad. As a matter of fact, there were times where it's like people have said stuff, and because a lot of times I'm a Republican that they know, they say, John, what's up with your boy saying this? Or John, why did that happen? So I got to have those conversations. So when I get that kind of feedback, then it says, and so I have to say, I said, dude, why are people saying X, Y, and Z? I said, look, when y'all say this crap, I got to deal with it.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
and it's like it makes my job a little bit harder. And I will say this, that I'm not in the conversion business. I don't do that. I know my ex-wife asks me about that sometimes. I mean, like, I'm not
Okay.
going to tell you why I joined. I'm not going to do that because my reasons are my reasons. They might not matter to you. So it's like, and so I always tell people, I would say, you find what works for you. And if you're, uh, I say, if you want to come, I guess some people will say, come join the dark side, as they say. No, that's what people have told me. Yes, yes, that's true. People told me that. Hey, we'll be happy to have you. And I've actually have talked to people who've recently joined, and we're going to work. We're going to these areas. We're going to, we're participating in block walks. Matter of fact, trying to coordinate a block walk soon. Um, we're going to different areas. Now, of course, what kind of reception I'm going to get, I don't know. Because you know, as you say, some people don't think highly of us per se.
Yeah.
It's always a risk when we go places because I don't want people throwing stuff at me or stuff like
No,
that.
but those things shouldn't happen. Again, we go to the baseline of we're all
Exactly.
human. We're all right now we're in Harris County. We're voting,
But
one of
we're
the most diverse cities. So those things shouldn't happen
but we're also
on
very
either
passionate
side.
too. We're also so you're right about that. That shouldn't happen at all. But it's like at the same time, though, of course, this hasn't happened here. Obviously, it has
Yeah.
happened here. Of course not. But the way politics are in our country right now, people are saying like, "How dare you?" Stuff like that. I mean, it's like, yeah. I mean, it's the good news. I haven't had anyone get my face yet. Point finger and say, "Hey, how dare you?" That kind of stuff. That hasn't happened yet either. Matter of fact, trying to Black Madonna, we haven't had people giving us any stuff and whatnot. Um, now, of course, the people giving us a hard time, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I'm sure that
But
if
that's expected when you're working with those
absolutely,
cultural events like that.
absolutely, and of course, I've
Yeah.
said this. I say, guys, look, people want to give us stuff. That's I'm saying that's natural. I mean, say for example, if you're a Democrat running for office, going to the Republican area, so yeah, it's going to be the same principle, same thing. But at the same time, though, you can't run from that. If you're going to be a representative for all people, if you're going to speak to all people, you have to talk to everyone, not just folks you agree with,
Okay.
everybody.
So that's good. So I want to get in a little bit of your history right now. Your
Okay.
history is that, and I probably can put a wager out there, and nobody would guess what college you went to.
Okay.
But you actually attended two HBCUs. I want you to tell me what those schools were, and as you are, and again, I'm not speaking to you just as a Republican. I'm speaking to you
Sure.
as somebody in society that has aspirations to continue to work on the vision that they believe in. But as
Yes,
you
sir.
went to these schools, your thought process then and your thought process now, how did it change? Because though you're not converting people, you are working to bring people over to the side because you're engaging for a reason. You're not engaging to just say, "Hey, I want you to know about us." You're engaging to cause momentum. So
Right.
when you attended these HBCUs,
Hmm.
uh, then and who was president then? Who was the governor? Who was president? And you were in another state at that time.
Yes, I
So who
was.
was the president at that time?
Okay. Okay. Well, I went to
I'm taking
Bethune.
you back. I'm taking you back, John.
No, you good. You good. Fall of '95, I
Okay.
started and graduated in spring 2000 from the Great Bethune-Cookman University in
Okay.
Daytona Beach, Florida. Governor at the time, I think, was Jeb Bush. I think he was governor at the time, I believe, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. And president was Bill Clinton. And at
Yeah.
that time, I was a Democrat. Was graduated in 2000 with my bachelor's degree in chemistry, and I had a minor in Spanish. From 2001 to 2003, I got my master's degree from Florida A&M University in Tallahassee.
Okay.
Um, I think Jeb was still governor then. Of course, you're in grad school, you kind of like into the books and everything else. It kind of
Yeah.
like tuned up for a little bit. My master's degree was in environmental sciences, concentration in environmental chemistry. In terms of what my thought process was, um, I will say that going to an HBCU made me who I am today. And it wasn't even about politics for me. It's not even about
Yeah.
that at that point. I really wasn't into I wasn't into the political like party stuff like that. I wasn't. I was just trying to go to school and get out and have some kind of fun when I was in school. But majoring in chemistry, that fun really wasn't out there like that. But my inspiration was A Different World TV show growing up. And my mother, she went to Philander Smith College, also in Little Rock, Arkansas, also majored in chemistry. I want to see people that looked like me doing something. I want to see people like me who were scientists, who were doctors. And I didn't get that much of that growing up. So I wanted to witness that. In terms of my, the one thing I guess going to an HBCU taught me was that you had to work hard no matter where you go. Because HBCUs, believe it or not, safe spaces. We know that. For Black growth, for Black pride, for Black power, Black intelligence coming in. I also marched in the band too, which was the best band in the country with the Marching Wildcats, the Pride. But anyway, with that being said, I knew I had to work harder than everyone else because that's being Black in America. That made me focused because I knew that the whole world was not Black coming out, and it was harder. Combine the fact I also had a speech impediment, I was going through a stutter. I still have it sometimes. Mm-hmm. But I will say that I'm sorry, I was thinking back for a minute, just like some of my classes and stuff like that I was in. I guess I always was kind of different to a certain degree.
Okay.
Because
what does that mean? What do you mean you just were?
Well, I say that because growing up, I got called things like wannabe white, stuff like that, because I didn't speak with like slang or whatever people would say. Okay. And so I'm originally from outside of Chicago. I'm originally from there. Grew up in the suburb called Olympia Fields. And, I really didn't have that many Black friends growing up. So I wanted to see a lot of, see us, like be around us. And I wanted to go to school in Florida because I knew no one there, kind of wanted to forge my own path.
All right.
Kind of make my own way. And it gave me confidence. It gave me strength because I knew that if anything did happen, if anything did get unstuck, I couldn't go say, Mom, Dad, I had to fix my own thing. So in a way, it made me grow up very, very quickly. And in terms of who I am today, it helped teach me things like honor, teach me things like respect, teach me the golden rule of do unto others as heaven do unto you. It also taught me that true character is measured when no one is watching. Like you could do things when people are looking at you, but it's harder to make the right decision at times when no one's watching you. So
that's great. That's a great insight. So I'm going to speak in the Black voice now.
Sure, go
so
ahead.
When I hear things like that, and sometimes when African American people hear things like that, here we have this great individual who has the education that understood that, hey, I'm a little bit, I'm not as Black as some people would say. I'm not as African American as some people would say. However, I go and I traverse and I pull myself out the mud and I continue my education and I have this career. And then now I side with a side who seemingly, again, I'm not going to speak in definites, who seemingly is against me. And now I can look at you if I feel I can identify you as a Democrat. In all honesty, speaking from the Black voice and having conversations with some brothers and sisters, I can identify with you. And it's going to be easy for me to get behind you and support. It's going to be easy for you to lead. It's going to be easy for me to open up my doors and say, hey, John Branch Jr., come on in and talk about Democrats, talk about this. Now you're with the party who many people of color are kind of against because they don't understand it. And that's why I appreciate what you're saying right now. They don't understand it. At any point, could you understand why if somebody not necessarily got in your face because that's disrespect, but just basically shunned you off and say, hey, man, you did all these great things and you're over here with mostly white people to be able to push the mostly white agenda. Could you understand why somebody would say something like that?
Let me say this in response to that as well. And this is where I guess media part comes in for a second too.
Okay.
Most of the Democrats are mostly white folks also.
I agree.
And I think that, and I guess to answer the first part of your question, when you said that people were where I guess like, well, bring me from if I was a Democrat, etc. Well, this I was at a Texas Southern football game a few years ago, and actually was talking about things like this. They were talking about gentrification taking place over in Third Ward, stuff like that. And so they talk about, I guess, like how messed up gentrification's happening, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so I asked them, I said, okay, well, who's in charge over here? And I said, it wasn't us. And
us as far as the Republican Party.
Yes. Okay. I said, we're not the elected officials over here. And and he got quiet for a second. And he said, well, I'm against gentrification. I said, gentrification is already happening. It's happening with Democrats representing your area. And so then he said to me, well, he was complaining that his elected officials weren't out there speaking to them. And I asked him, I said, do they have a reason to? Now, here's what I mean by that. Do they have a reason to? Because, and you just said it yourself as well, if people know that you're going to vote for them because there's a D next to their name, if they know that voters are going to follow them just because there's a D next to their name, that person, they could raise your property taxes. That person, they could have judges elected that have record numbers of mistrials, that continuously let people who commit crimes, things like murder and burglary and stuff, over and over again, keep letting them out of jail. But they know that you're still going to vote for them because there's a D next to their name. They have no reason to engage you. And for some of them, and of course I told them this, one guy said, I like you, but there's an R next to your name. I said, and I said, you just said you agree with everything I was talking to you about. And I said, what difference does it make if you agree with me as the candidate per se? Because I'm my own person. I don't see any strings in the back of my head now. There's no one's pulling strings on me. I'm not a puppet or anything like that. It was like no one's saying, hey, say this thing. No, absolutely not. I've always been my own person, and that's got me in trouble a lot of times too. And one thing people know about me is say, I don't care about that kind of stuff. So when you have people who have their own mind,
all right.
When you have people who will speak on things, now of course, I'm not going to agree with everything that you say. However, just because we may not agree does not mean that I'm willing to hear your point of view, which I am. And then say, okay, you know what? Maybe we want the same things, but let's see how we could explain it in a way that could make Democrats and Republicans understand. Make sure that all parties are satisfied. One thing that we should do more, and I said this to someone, I think it was like earlier this summer, and I said, you can disagree without being disagreeable. And I came, and it's like, look, I didn't come here to enrage. I came to engage. I didn't rage. My thing is, I just want to have a conversation. And I think unfortunately, say again?
Yeah. No, I think that's what's important. Yes. Having a conversation, not only what you're doing now. I kind of want to get into give me some positive things that you see coming up with the party as we get ready to go into these primaries. And then I want to get into some news. I want you to share some news with us too But we want to talk about some positive things because though nothing's been negative to this point, but it's just
Sure.
understanding. So let's talk about the things that you guys feel that's going on right now. Let's talk about some election stuff that's going on in primaries. So I think we spoke the other day, and the last day to register is that October 20th?
I believe so. Yes.
Okay, so the last day to register is October 20th.
Mhm.
And then we also spoke about the formerly incarcerated. So again, me being formerly incarcerated and working in that population, justice impacted population.
Yes.
I gave you a number that I don't think that you knew. In Harris County alone, 1,500 individuals are eligible to vote to come out
Yes.
parole or supervision every
Mhm.
year.
Yes.
What do you guys think that you can do? Because that's a group
Mhm.
that nobody targets. What do you guys think that you can do to work with that population to say what you said earlier? Hey, you matter. Hey, you made a mistake.
Right.
You're paying these taxes. Your kids are
Mhm.
going to these schools. You stay in Katy or you stay in South Park.
Yes.
Like, how do you think that you guys can engage them to be able to enlighten the formerly incarcerated population, African American,
Sure.
white, Hispanic, Asian, those populations?
Well, the one thing I will say is that personally, I'm not a fan of people going back and forth and out the system. I'm not a fan of that
Okay.
at all. Because first of all, it's very expensive. Number one, but the amount of money it costs to keep a man or a woman in jail is astronomical. And I don't know about you, but I want our tax dollars be used to helping those individuals like open up small business, open, I guess, helping them keep food on the planet and feed their families as a housing them in jail and stuff. And I believe this was like, I'm trying to remember the exact year. I think it was 97. Maybe I'm wrong about this. Please don't cite me on that. But it's like there was a law that was passed, I think, when George Bush was governor. And I think Harold Dutton was one of the main ones who was signed on this bill, was about giving the rights for I guess like for those who were felons, the right to vote.
Okay.
The reason why people don't push it is because one, as I mentioned earlier, America's kind of a throwaway society. You know, people they serve their time, they get out. It's like okay, you serve, go somewhere else. But no, I mean, so no, I don't. No, that's if people have served their time, they have the right to reenter society and have all the rights thereof that everyone else. I mean, it's like as you did your time to say, rightfully, wrongfully, you served, you're rehabilitated, you're working, you're paying taxes, you're taking care of your families, you pick yourself back up, you're working on your feet, you're staying out of the stuff that caused you to go back in the first place so that you can actually um, actually be a positive member of society. And I'm glad that you have turned it around as well, because we talked briefly about that at the family reunion event. And I don't know if I told you this, but I'm very proud of you. I can turn how you turned it around and stuff. Now, in terms of what we have in the future, definitely block walking. But one thing that I also want to do, and actually, our engagement committee meeting is actually tomorrow night. And I was actually typing up my agenda before I got this call and stuff here. So one thing that's one I do is I'm actually I'm deputized as well. I'm a volunteer deputy registrar. Where I can actually register people to vote. So I
Okay.
definitely want to set up something in which I actually could register people to vote, generation, so they could actually vote in the midterm elections. Now, one thing I also want to stress, I'll be I just want to stress that we are voting in all elections.
Mhm.
Vote in every election on every level, and also not just vote for the elections, but also engage your elected officials as well. Because
Yeah.
I had a conversation come up. How many people know who their city council members are? How many people know
Exactly.
who their state reps are? And they're not. It's not a situation in which like it takes like an act of God or like trying to call the president, something like that to get your council member. No, they're listed on the Harris County website, City of Houston website, and you can actually look up their information. You email them, reach out to them
Yeah.
anytime. And one thing that I'm thankful for is my city councilman is Everett Powell. I live in District J. And me and Everett Powell, we're very, very cool. He's a very nice guy. We talk a lot, and I try to ensure that I'm in top of uh, um, of things in my council member. Now, of course, it's not just about trying to earn political points. It's about just like learning about my district, but then making sure that I'm doing my job as citizen and actually practicing proper citizenship. So one thing I would say to the community that you're speaking about, make sure you know your elected officials, and
Yeah.
make sure. And watch this though. Here's the best part though.
Okay.
Make
Give it to me.
sure, make sure that they know who you are, not just around election season.
Okay.
Because we don't want to get to a situation in which like they come to you because they want to get elected, and then they don't see you again for, I'll say, 16 months.
Yeah.
Right around the time when the primary season comes, primary is over, and I say, hey, vote for me in general election. I was like, I haven't seen you in a while. They said, well, we got folks come with excuses why they can't talk to you, why they can't see you, and then they just come up with just any old
Being
reason.
busy and all those other things.
Exactly. And then the same thing, as of course I mentioned this earlier. Because one thing that I'll say is that these people may not care about you. You know that they might look at you kind of funny. You don't have to vote for them. You can vote for
Yeah.
somebody else and see. And then say, okay, what if this person, he doesn't like what we got to do? I said, okay, let's have elections every 2 years. You can vote him out.
So let's talk about this. One thing that you're speaking about is relationship, right?
Yes,
You're speaking about relationship. You're saying that the party that you're with, the Republican Party, wants to establish better relationships in the
absolutely.
community, and that those that are in these communities that are voting, that have a voice, that they need to establish better relationships. Tell me how, John
Okay.
Branch Jr.,
You
that
got my
you
number.
are
Okay.
going to work to establish these relationships in the communities that you desire to serve in. So go ahead and tell us what your plans are.
Well, thank you. I'm actually planning to run for city council next year,
Okay.
2023. I want to run for an at-large seat. Haven't decided which at-large seat I want yet. Let's just say there are like different reasons for looking at each one. There's 5 of them. 3 of them are coming open because they're terming out. I think at-large 1, 2, and 3, they're all terming out. At-large 4 and 5 have incumbents, and I have reason to maybe run against for each one of those. But I'm going to make my decision soon. And the one things that I guess some of the things that I want to speak about is, well, one thing that we're seeing in the news here every day is crime.
Yeah.
My mother's 77 years old, and she came here to visit me. She's actually coming to visit me later on this year because it's my niece's birthday,
Okay.
and it's around the same time that my son's birthday is. And I don't want to be driving around the 610 and some idiots taking shots off of an overpass aiming at cars. And I think that actually happened earlier this year.
Yes.
I don't want my mom to lose her life because of that kind of stuff going on here. And actually, she's actually living in Memphis right now. And of course, there was some mass shooting there. People drive around just shooting people and then putting everything on Facebook for everyone to see.
Yeah.
No one should have to. No one should have to live that way. And that's actually one of the reasons why I've taken up actually going to ranges. Because I don't want to be driving somewhere and then some person who doesn't value my life takes it away. Like I said, I have a son. My son is 5. He turned 6 years old this year. I don't want him to say, "Where's Daddy?" I don't
Yeah.
want that to happen. But then another crime that we're speaking about as well is the crime of those people who are falsely accused and they're sent away. And because they aren't able to help themselves, they're not able to get representation because those relationships aren't there. Um, People who are falsely accused should never have to have to suffer like that.
Yes.
It shouldn't have
Yes.
to happen at all.
So we
Um,
thank you. Yeah, that's a great sentiment. And that's a if you choose to champion that, man, that's a hell of a fight right there.
and can
Go ahead.
I also speak about this myself? I guess like personal about being falsely accused as well. If you don't mind me speaking about this real quick.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Um, and I didn't really think about this until a couple years ago. My father, who passed away in 2016, was an educator. This was his education was his second career. He was an architect for a long time. He went to education, loved it. Actually, one of the reasons why I wanted teaching as a second career. And he was falsely accused. Of course, this all been in Chicago. He was falsely accused by a couple female students of inappropriate relationships. I'll
Mm.
let you figure that out. And it wasn't, I mean, of course, it didn't make the news, nothing like that. And he wasn't on television. But just the fact that that stuff happened and family members turned on him. I went home one year. I was in school, and Dad was at home. You know, he had a hard. He was working for like security thing, installing smoke alarms and stuff like that. And you know, one of the persons involved was talking about him, stuff like that. He was a family member,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, my dad, he was like, how old is? I think he was like in his almost in his 60s at this time, and that was the first time he just broke down to me one day. My dad was a very strong man, very proud man, very prideful man, and the first time I ever saw him cry, like break down in tears, because it was just wearing on him. And here's the bad part about it. The bad part about it, when the hearing came, their story fell apart. They, the girls admitted they made everything up because they didn't like the fact he was giving them homework.
Mm.
And what was the reaction he got? Never got an apology. It was all about, please don't sue.
Mm.
And he talked about that an awful lot. I'm thinking to myself, I mean, dude, you were. I mean, at first, I'm thinking it's okay. You know what? You were okay. You know, you made it. Why was it we still talking about it? But then I started thinking about, because I know Rashawn told me his story, and of course I heard your story. I'm thinking about people who, I guess, like who go through that, and they never are made whole,
Mm-hmm.
and and which leads me to, I guess, like, and I hate to say this because I hate to say to the campaign stuff, leads to homelessness. How many of us are one paycheck away, one false charge away, one overzealous spouse or ex away from being on someone's street? There's a city within a city here.
Yeah.
Those people should be respected and loved and cherished, because it could be me, it could be you, it could be anybody on the streets. A lot of us are one phone call or one something away from being where they are. And funny thing is, about a month ago, I woke up, I had a dream I was homeless.
Mm.
I woke up, I was hearing cars on the road, I was sleeping. It seemed like I was a hard surface. I thought my mattress was hard. I said, no, it was actually the street I was on. I was touching my face, my hair had grown out. All this here was just rough and rugged and everything else, missing some teeth. And I felt my speech was going. My brain still worked, but I felt my speech was not coherent anymore. And I'm like, oh my God. And people who I knew act like they didn't know me anymore.
Mm.
How many people are going through that right now? I mean, these are communities that, if I'm elected to city council, I want to help protect those communities, help cherish these communities, because it could be any of us. Any of us could be out there. And I don't wish that on nobody.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a that is a very bad story, as we have in the chat from Vicky and Miss Morris. That, I mean, Miss Dixon and Miss Morris. Though that's a very sad story, and I'm sorry that it happened to your father.
Mm-hmm.
But as somebody in the chat said too, a lot of things happen to teachers, and then we can also expand that a lot of things happen too, as we talked about what we talked about earlier.
Yes.
Baseline, just the human people, man. Just the
Yes.
people, not saying human people, but just those individuals. We want to look at each other like, man, we are just one group of individuals, man. So that's terrible, and your passion has shown through today. Your concern for your city, for your county, for your party has shown through. And I appreciate you being honest and taking the time out to be able to explain those things to not only me, as this will be recorded and shown over, but other individuals, because I think that it's important that everybody understands what we are not only facing, but what is before them. When it comes to voting, when it comes to what's going on in your local community, those things are very important. And if you don't become active in your local community, it's difficult for you to care about things that go on around the country. And so it's very important to be active in your local community.
All politics are local, man. And I will say this. I want to be, because my last name is Branch, I want to be a branch of government you can trust.
That sounds pretty good.
I want to be someone who you could talk to about anything. So once, of course, the cool thing with city council is nonpartisan, so you got to worry about, I guess, like sides out, stuff like that. My job is I want to represent everybody.
Okay.
And and what I just told you guys just now and stuff, that stuff could affect left, right, any party it is. Some things are not about parties. Some things are just about us as people. Some things are just about us as just human beings. I mean, it's like you could disagree without being disagreeable. You can, we don't have to agree on everything. You don't have to say, okay, I'm not going to vote for this person because of this, or I'm not going to support them because of this. Maybe someone just is. Maybe people grew up differently. Maybe people had life experiences that actually could kind of, I guess, like influence what side of the aisle you land on. I always try to get to know the person, what their family was like before anything else.
Yeah.
That's something that I definitely care about, and just as a Black man, because we're all, me and you are the same, we are, and I think this is something I actually saw in the Fresh Prince once, if you don't mind using Fresh Prince reference, and I think it was the episode where Will and Carlton trying to pledge the fraternity and stuff, and so and of course the one guy who was the dean of pledges called Carlton a sellout. And he's like, what does that mean? Because basically they're talking about like different life choices they had. And he said, being Black is not what I'm trying to be. Being Black is what I am. We're both running the same races.
Yeah.
We run the same race every day. I think that sometimes, and I agree, we should stick together, but sometimes we don't know what that means to stick together. And, I just met you a few months ago. But if you were to call me and say, "Hey, John, would you mind coming to something?" Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, when you had spoken to me about coming on this show, this was before I even thought about running for city council. I was going to come anyway. Yeah, I was going to come anyway. Not because policy is part of it. Part of it, this sometimes is kind of fun, but I believe in working with and helping people, no matter who they are, what they do, because you never ever know who you're going to run into. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know who you're going to be blessed to encounter. And you mentioned, I guess, like the population of formerly incarcerated that's here. This is not about trying to get votes from. I could care less about that. This is about making sure that this community is represented in anything and everything that they do. That they should have the same rights, the same access to elected officials like everyone else has. Some things like you shouldn't have to be a millionaire, or you shouldn't have to be in a certain organization. I'll let you figure that one out to serve in an elected office.
Yeah.
You should be able to serve in office because you care about serving. You should want to serve in office because you care about people, period.
I agree. And I appreciate you for those sentiments. And again, I thank you for coming on the show today. We're getting ready to wrap up the Conservative Liberal Show. This is our first show back in 2 years. So we appreciate you coming on, and we want to hear more as you get ready to roll your campaign out. That's some slick marketing right there, a branch of the government. That's some slick marketing.
Vote for John Branch Jr., a branch in government you can trust.
Hey, that's slick right there, man. So also, I end every show and I give every guest about 2 minutes. And I always go and I say that I want you to give the people some insight give them some game, give them something that they can chew on for a little bit. And I call this free of charge. So
Okay.
it's something that you pay for. It's an experience, some insight, again, some game that you pay for through your sweat, through your money, through just learning something bad. And I want you to give the people something free of charge.
Okay, free of charge. Okay, well, two things, and actually, I spoke about one of them earlier. Get to know your elected officials, and I mean get to know their elected officials. I mean everything from donate to go to their super neighborhoods to go to their office, talk to them. We're trying to get like, say for example, you're trying to get like drive stuff like that, like school supplies or anything like that. Matter of fact, that's a good idea for someone to do in January. Um, Talk to your elected officials. That's why they're there. And then also networking, um, and network everywhere. Once again, you never know what blessings are in front of you. Sometimes you just got to get out of our own way. The thing is, don't be afraid, people. We are all human, and we want the same thing. We just have a different way of going about getting there. You know, there's like a treasure map and stuff like that. Now, notice, I don't know if you've seen any pirate movies, there's always like a different pathway, a different secret passage to get to the treasure. But we all want the same thing. And free a game, please hold your elected officials accountable.
Yeah.
Please don't, and please ask where they were. Please say, look, don't just talk to me because you want my vote. Or please don't come to me because it's election season and you want donations. Please come to me because you want to come and honestly speak to me and be fair. Please tell me
That's
about the bills you're working on in the state legislature. Like, for example, there is a website that you can go to. You can look up all the bills in progress when session's happening. I use that an awful lot. You know, you can look at all the bills and ask your elected officials what bills you're going to champion. And may I come down and speak during session so that I could actually speak to you and visit my elected officials. So all politics is local. That's
yeah.
that's my free of charge for this evening.
I appreciate it. So thank you, John Brass Jr., Harris County Republican Party Engagement Committee Chair,
Mm-hmm.
local servant in the community. I appreciate you coming on the Conservative Liberal Show, and also giving us a free of charge, because it's important, again, that all sides are heard and understood, because all sides are in on making a decision. And so
Yes.
that's what I want the community to understand, that no matter what, somebody's going to make a decision. So if you can have a seat at the table, however that happens, you should have that seat at the table. And we don't talk about politics a lot, but we know that on this show, we talk about criminal justice and community. But because, again, it's primary season, I want the individuals that come from where I come from and that are still, that have families, that they can understand, man, you have a voice. Sometimes people's voice have to be restored, and education helps to restore people's voice. So I appreciate you coming today. And any announcements that you have, please let us know. Again, my name is Damion JaDonne, and I am the host of the Conservative Liberal Show. And I hope to see you guys next time. And please tell somebody and share this Facebook, YouTube, or however you got it tonight. Please share it. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you.
Thank you again for having me on.